We're on to the final part of this wildlife conservation project. This is where you're going to present all your information. So all the work you were doing for the last few weeks was research and investigation. So we had a Microsoft Word document and you were doing parts of this all the way along. So we talked about, first of all, you decided on what species you were going to try and help out. So you picked a species at the start here. So we'd say, for example, it might have been bees. You named the species of bees. You had some photographs of the bees. You learned some information about the bees or whatever species it was. So how big they were, what they eat, where they nest, when they mate, and so on. So you got a load of information about the species. You went through how to attract them into the garden. Then you went through what type of plants or shrubs or trees you were going to plant in the garden that was going to help you attract the species. So if it was bees, you might have been planting something like lavender, and again you got information about the plant and you had some photographs of the plant. What time of year it should be planted and the instructions on how to plant it. Then we moved on to building a shelter for the species. So if it was bees, it might have been something like a sort of a bee shelter that had lots of little holes in it, like a little bee hotel, or else it could have been a piece of earth where the grass is removed, for example. It could have been anything. This was based on research from the internet. However, you had to do research here on the internet. You couldn't make up your own idea because you had no guarantee that that was going to work to attract the species or the wildlife into the garden. So this needed to be something that you had learned about on the internet. How was it going to be constructed? And then you had to sketch it out. So the example I gave was for a bat box. I sketched out an elevation and end view of the bat box and a 3D view of the bat box. So that was all the research done. Now we're on to presenting it, and I've put up an example here of, for example, I did my project on bats. So what you're going to do is present all the information on one A3 page. A3 sheet is the big sheet. If you don't have one, it's the same size as two A4 sheets. So if you just get two A4 sheets like you'd have in your printer at home, that makes up the same size as an A3 sheet. So if you don't have an A3 drawing sheet, you can just sellotape two A4 sheets together. We'll go through what's on it then as well. What I'm looking to make is a collage. So everything that I've learned about bats was the example of the species I took, I've put onto the collage. So you can see at the start here, I've just a little piece of information about the lesser horseshoe bats in general. So just general information about them. That is just stuck on. So in other words, you can take pieces of information, print it out in your printer, cut it out and just tape it on or print stick it on. I have some photos of the lesser horseshoe bat. Again, you could print those out and stick them on. And then I've handwritten some boxes in. So in other words, the information I learned on how to attract them to the garden is here. I drew a little sketch of the bats so you can see what they look like. The bat facts, so in other words, what size they were, when they mate, what they eat, where they live, all of that kind of stuff was here. And as we go down through it, it's basically all of the information that I learned in the Word document. And as I run down further, so again, I've got into the kind of the second part of it. So we had to learn about the bat box. So in other words, I had my sketches of the bat box and the information on how to construct it. I have my sketches put in. Again, I just cut those out and stuck them onto the page. Then I went down to the type of plant. So I was going to plant a yarrow, wildflowers, an Irish clover, and again I put in some photos of those. And up above I have the information about the flowers I was going to plant. So again, it's all the information we gathered over the last few weeks, just assembled onto one page. Just to dress it up a little bit then, just some little bits of colour. I've got some kind of facts, interesting facts about bats in general, and that is the collage. So in other words, I took all the information I learned over the last few weeks and I put it onto one single big page. That is what you need to do for your species. So if you're doing it on bees, this whole page should be about bees. If you're doing it on a robin, for example, the entire page should be about the robin, attracting it to the garden and how you're going to build a shelter and what you'd plant in the garden to attract it. Okay, so get started.